Good morning. Today is the 21st of December, it's the summer solstice tonight, and I just want to show you out the front here. Been milking the goats out the front here for 2 weeks or so, just pulling them out in front of the bucket here, putting one of them tied to a tree while the other one on milk, and it works okay if they have lots of food in their dish, and they're happy to stand there and do it. So we'll go and say hello to the goats. They're ready to come out. Morning goats! Morning goat! Hi goat! Here's Milky. Hi Milky! And Chucky! Hi Chucky! How are you? And here's Chucky! Chucky always loves talking a lot. Hey Chucky! Hey Chucky Chuck! Hey Milky! Hey Milky! Who wants to go first? It's actually always Chucky. Chucky gets milked first. Hey Chucky. She's the boss. Now the goats have been milked and they're down in a paddock below the bottom dam. There's lots of grass here. And we're thinking we might try and get 2 young sheep in the year, because the land now is more grassy. The chickens are also still in the front paddocks in their mobile chook tractor and their electric net, and they've almost finished doing the whole circuit, so we might move them here a little bit to the left next time, but otherwise they started off in front of the goat house over here and they moved all the way around the front areas that are flat, and so they've been working together with the goats to try and improve the fertility of the pastures out the front. So I'm deciding to film a little bit from higher up. So on the far left is the duck areas, the old chicken house with the goat pen behind that, and then panning across food forest areas in the foreground here. And it's satisfying that these trees have all grown quite big. They have nice big thick trunks now after 3 or 4 years. Beehives down there, 3 beehives going pretty well now. They've all got 3 boxes on, lots of bees coming in and out. We harvested honey last week, probably around 20 kilos, and we might harvest again partway through summer or near the end of summer. You can see the super adobe dome over there. We've now moved the van down the bottom, and a lot of the other stuff's blocked out by trees, so it's significant how much the trees have grown. It's looking really quite green and lush because we had 200 mils in the beginning of October, and so far this year we've only had, I think, around 600 and something, and our long-term average is 800, so we're not going to meet the average for sure. Looks like the rest of December is going to be dry, so the place is looking a lot better than it could be. It could be looking a lot worse actually with the low rainfall year. We did lose some trees over the winter, and I'm still adding more and more drippers so that we can keep water up to, or a little bit of water up to more and more trees. That 200 mils really topped up the dams and the ponds. They were all overflowing. Our water tanks aren't quite full, but it certainly made a huge difference, because that's a third of our annual rainfall. As usual, before I do a video, I think back what we've been doing over the last 3 months before, and there haven't really been any major projects on. We've just been doing a lot of maintenance work, like planting out herbs and bushes and various different plants in the understory underneath fruit trees and stuff, preparing beds for growing summer crops, maintaining the animal systems. We do continue working on the terraces, so the terraces are progressing, but that's a long-term project that we do bit by bit. So I'll show you here how it's looking. I mean, even here needs a little bit of work. This is the most recent patch, or second to most recent patch that I finished off and then planted a green manure mix, and then that little patch there is planted with corn, and we did that really recently, so that's within like finished last week with a couple of helpers. So when I get a couple of keen helpers, then normally we'll do some hours on a terrace and make some progress. So this kind of 6 square meters was made in a couple of mornings. You know, we worked out that it takes, I think, 2 hours per square meter to dig out the rocks and then to prepare the soil for planting. So yeah, it's slow going, but that work is worth it, because then you start to get really good growth. You know, like the tomatoes, they're looking pretty good. And the terraces in general have a lot of biomass, which to me means that the soil amendment is working, and the water soaking strategy that terraces are is definitely helping as well. So here near the toilet is some bean trellises. They grew really well last year, so we planted them again in the same place. And I am perennializing this by planting in some fruit trees, but in the meantime we're using it for annuals, as you can see there, with some corn coming up, UFO squash, a lot of silver beet, there was kale, there's lettuce, so it's multi-use. And over here in the bottom of the old kitchen garden, there's still brassicas that are nearly a year old. Well, no, probably more like 8 months old. So we're slowly using those. If we don't eat them, then the goats do. Again, UFO squash, quite okay. Zucchini doing well, even despite it being over 30 degrees today. Yeah, place looking okay, considering the dry. Getting a lot of blackberries from this bush here. We've harvested kilos and kilos from there, and I love this because it's just so low work. We do almost nothing for this big bush here to give us substantial yield of berries. Our main annual growing circles probably look better than they are because of all this Jerusalem artichoke that shows a lot of green, but there is a lot of food in each circle and lots of variety. So just looking there, you can see silver beet, lettuce, brassicas. We let the dock grow in there. There's zucchini, there's fennel, there's chicory. I think there's even, what is that there, another zucchini maybe, and a couple of weeds. There's vetch in there helping to add nitrogen, and yeah, we let some things go to flower so the bees get lots of variety too. So yeah, it's looking good. So like I said, it's been a time for maintenance. So up there at the dome, you can see near it that we've cut down coppers and pollarded a few trees, just because, you know, we don't want so many trees so close to infrastructure. So there's 1, 2, 3, and I mean that takes time to, you know, to cut them and then cut them up, tidy them up, make the stacks of firewood and so on. So yeah, it's that kind of thing we've been doing in the last 3 months. Down on the walkway towards the tree house, we've cut another few trees down to do the same thing, to thin them out, to make use of the logs and to get firewood. And we, you know, take all the branches to the dump to get mulched up, and then often we buy back the mulch. So yeah. Now I'll finish off with a view of the new food forest. Some trees growing really well. Unfortunately, I was away for 5 weeks to Victoria for a bit of a permaculture trip and a little bit of teacher training, and when I came back there's a lot of damage from kangaroos and possums. So a lot of my trees that were doing really well had broken branches, and, you know, the leaves all stripped off and eaten. So that's really quite disappointing and frustrating. We're supposed to be working with nature, not against nature, and yet nature is beating the young fruit trees and really knocking them back. when we want them to be growing big and offering fruit to everybody and shade and so on. So yeah, we just have to soldier on and keep going. And that's it for our update.